guys, it's Will with Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society. You're watching Why I Like This Movie. Today we're going to talk about Above the Law. Not the Steven Seagal movie, the Yuen Biao movie. This was released in 1986. It's directed by Corey Yuen, who directed Hero, the movie from the mid-90s, not the later one with Jet Li. He also directed The Defender, which Jet Li was in, My Father is a Hero, which is another 90s Jet Li movie, and other stuff of that nature. And he's in this movie, actually. He's one of the side characters. Cynthia Rothrock is in the movie, Roy Chow, Melvin Wong. It's got a really big cast. And this is like one of the big starring roles for Yuen Biao. So if you're unfamiliar, Yuen Biao, whose name I'm probably butchering, by the way, and I apologize for that, is really good friends with Jackie Chan and with Sammo Hung and with that whole crew. And he was in a ton of their movies as an actor, as a stunt performer, martial artist, all of these things. And he grew up with them, as far as I understand. And they were kind of called like the Three Dragons together. And typically, he stars as one of the supporting characters in their films. And he did star in his, or in like other films of that nature from that era. He did star in his own films, but he didn't have a ton of like big high profile starring roles. And this is one of his like bigger movies, I guess you would say. It's not like a huge hit. It's more of a cult classic, which is why I thought it would be appropriate for this show. Because as I said before, I'm trying not to do movies like A Better Tomorrow or things that are like really obvious to talk about. So this movie is also called Righting Wrongs sometimes, as a translated title. And so it's a very kind of like preposterous, grindhousey movie. I also said this about The Protector, if you saw that episode that we did on the Jackie Chan film. And it's very much like of that 80s kind of grindhouse, violent, trashy genre of films where like the plot doesn't make an extreme amount of sense. And so to tell you what I mean by that, what the hero is trying to achieve is the plot is basically, again, this is preposterous. Yuen Biao plays a lawyer who is trying these like big kind of corporate criminal guys who are like powerful businessmen, but who also do a lot of stuff in organized crime, drug trafficking, whatever. And they have one of their hitmen kill the star witness in their trial, so they get off. And so this lawyer, who also happens to be one of the world's greatest martial artists, decides he needs to kill these guys on his own, and so he goes out and he just starts killing them. And the script, one of the things I really like about this movie is that there's no kind of screenwriterly bullshit. There's no like, oh, I'm going to do this, but then this problem gets in the way, and so I have to fix it by doing this, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, here's a guy who's an amazing martial artist, who's very capable at what he's doing, who has the element of surprise. He goes to kill this guy, and guess what? He kills him. Success. What's next? What's interesting is that the desires of the characters, and this is something else I really like about this movie, end up complicating the plot more than obvious plot machinations. And so you have these peripheral characters who are given a ton of agency and who are treated with a lot of compassion, which is very rare in this kind of grindhousey genre. There's a father and a son who are both cops, and they have a really kind of like touching relationship. And the son is kind of like, he's not that smart, but he works hard and he cares about his job. And like people make fun of him for being a little bit dumb, but he's a very like compassionate person, and he ends up being a heroic character in a way that surprises you. And so it places emphasis and gives the kind of like a nobility to like these people who are not these over-the-top heroes doing these insane martial arts and stuff like that. And so it has like a very good heart, which I think is really interesting for kind of a grindhousey, violent movie of this nature. There are also some really great female characters. So if you watch a lot of these 80s Hong Kong movies, you very quickly realize that not a lot of them have really strong female characters who have a lot of agency and who take action on their own and are heroic in their own right. They often are kind of like, I don't want to say props, but they are secondary to the male characters and exist only in as much as they relate to the male characters. In this movie, Cynthia Rothrock plays a Hong Kong detective, which is another absurd element to this movie. I know that there were British detectives in Hong Kong under British rule, but Cynthia Rothrock is an American woman who's very obviously American, right? And she is somehow a detective in Hong Kong. I don't know how much sense that makes, but who cares? Because she's a badass fighter, and she has some great fight scenes, and her character is not written as a woman. She's written as a detective and a martial artist who happens to be a woman, and that's really cool to see in any movie, but especially a movie of this nature from this era. She has a really great fight scene with Karen Shepard towards the end, which is an obvious influence on Kill Bill, and especially the Gogo Yarabi fight with her and the bride. So that's another cool reason to see this movie. Melvin Wong plays the villain, and he does a really great job in that. And there's a really crazy, like over the top fight scene at the end, which again is another preposterous detail. There's like all these assassins working in an airplane hangar fixing airplanes, so they're like airplane mechanics, but they're also like some of the world's best martial artists who are also assassinating people. So, but to get back to my previous point about the absurdity of the plot, the hero, the lawyer, right, is trying to kill these criminals. The bad guy, and I won't reveal, well, actually I did reveal who the bad guy is. Spoiler alert! It's Melvin Wong. So if you don't know who Melvin Wong is, don't look him up on IMDb before you watch this movie and you won't know who the villain is. If you do know who Melvin Wong is, my bad. He's trying to do the same thing. Like, he's trying to kill the criminals. So at some point you're like, why are these guys enemies? Like, why are they trying to kill each other if they're doing the same thing? They're helping one another. It doesn't make any sense. And there's lots of details like that. Like, there's a scene where Cynthia Rothrock gets really mad, and a guy, she's in her car, and there's a guy in traffic next to her who shouts at her because she's not driving when he wants her to drive, and she shoots his car. And it's like a detective shooting a civilian's car in broad daylight, and there's like no ramifications, like there's no blowback. Like, it's just ridiculous, but it's really fun. It's a really fun movie. And the other thing that this movie does that I think is really interesting is that it explores real-world consequences of violence. So I was saying that there's a scene where an assassin comes and he kills the star witness in this case, right? The assassin doesn't just kill the star witness. The assassin kills the entire family of the star witness, which includes children and which includes old people. And it's a really kind of uncomfortable scene to watch. And it's a movie that has some silliness to it and that has a lot of sentimentality to it. And so in a way, it's awkward and uncomfortable to watch this really violent killing of this whole family. And you don't see the children die. Just to let you know, if that's something that you like, obviously there are bridges that some people can't cross in watching movies, and myself being a parent now, I don't want to see scenes in which children die. You don't see the children die. You know that the children die. You see some of the adults die. But the act is very upsetting. And I think that as film viewers and as people who create media, we very often try to separate sentimentality from what seems like extreme remorseless violence, because it seems exploitative and also because it's really upsetting. What's interesting about this movie is, like I said, it has kindness and compassion for a lot of its characters. It makes you watch, well, not uncomfortable violence, but it gives you uncomfortable violence within the story of the film, and it gives you sentimentality and compassion towards the characters. And so it's not something that you're used to, but it's very interesting, and it can be very moving, and it's also very realistic. Right? Because the world can be a very remorseless and cruel place, especially when you're dealing with assassins, criminals, lawyers who are martial arts experts, and things of this nature, drug trafficking. And people, there are people who die who have loved ones in these situations, and it's very disturbing, and it's very upsetting, and it's very difficult to deal with. So in that aspect, it's, we would say that this movie is preposterous, and in a lot of the plot machinations, it is preposterous, but there's a core of emotional honesty in the film that I think is really, really interesting and unexpected for a movie of this nature. The music is amazing, as it is with a lot of these 80s movies. There's like saxophone, there's all these very brash synthesizers that has this very big, like echoey, almost like Genesis sounding production. So it's like really cool, really corny 80s music. So, if you're a fan of that kind of thing, it's definitely worth checking out. But, so it's a relatively short film. It's got awesome, this is another thing I forgot to say. Well, let me break this down for you. This film has amazing fight scenes and action sequences. So much so that they seem at odds with the plot. Like, these seem like the type of action sequences that would be in like the highest budgeted Jackie Chan movie of that time. Not this, what seems like a lower budget kind of grindhousey, like hard R-rated movie. There's a scene in a parking garage where Yuen Biao is walking from his car to a building, and these people come and try to kill him in cars, and they're all driving at him, and he's jumping over the cars and leaping up onto the cars and kicking through the windshields of the cars, and then they come at him with baseball bats, and he gets one of their baseball bats, and there's almost like it's like a sword fight, but with baseball bats. It's a really fantastic sequence, and it's probably my favorite action sequence in the movie. But there's lots of really great, innovative fight scenes and action sequences in this movie. So if you're a fan of Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, like all of that stuff, it's definitely worth checking out for that. So that's a basic breakdown of Above the Law. Those are reasons that I like this movie. If you like it too, comment. Let us know why. Let us know what you like about it. Let us know what you don't like about it. We did an unboxing of this movie. I bought the DVD not too long ago, so I'll include a link in the description of this to the unboxing video so you can check that out. And subscribe to the channel if you feel so inclined. That would be a huge help to us. It helps us make more content. It lets us know that people are watching and that people care about what we're doing. And that's about that. Thank you for watching. Like I said, my name is Will. This has been Why I Like This Movie, and today we were talking about Above the Law.